Hey, how's everybody doing today? Awesome Tuesday, kicking off the start of our post-Labor Day year with none other than ABS, Alex B. Sheridan. Hello, my friend. Good to be with you today.
You too, brother. You too.
I'm excited. I'm glad we're able to pop this on and get this going. So I think it's great. Everyone's talking about how do you show up on LinkedIn? How do you look a little different, get a little unique? And I think a lot of people are challenged to even post, let alone explore video. And so I wanted to be able to get on the line right now with you. I feel like you're doing the coolest, most creative videos on LinkedIn that I've seen. And I feel like I was fortunate enough to get connected with you a couple months ago and really get opened up to this world of creatively sharing yourself and your opportunities and what you're up to. So I thought we would set up this format, do a little bit of background, get a little bit of origin story of Alex, and really this journey that you've been on over the last 12 months, diving in full out, creating creative videos on LinkedIn, launching your platform, building this bootcamp community, which I'm proud to say I'm part of.
Yeah.
And where you're going with it. So why don't you introduce yourself, say a little bit more about you, background, and where you've been.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Alex, go by ABS, founder of Impacts. And I mean, going back, I always felt like I was somebody that was a creative thinker and thought of ideas and scripts and acted out stuff in my head and made up stories. I wrote raps while I was in school and made a ton of music. And so the creative juices, I think, like a lot of people, are in us. It's just when we're kids and early on, we don't necessarily, and our parents and our schools don't necessarily know how to pull that out and use that. And so I got on LinkedIn.
Give me a glimpse of that. Where was a glimpse of that, like younger on? Any opportunities you had where you kind of saw like, I like this. I like being able to, show up creatively.
Yeah, just in my raps. I mean, I created hip hop music. Yeah, for a long.
When was that? When was the first rap?
When I was 14.
Wow.
Remember. Yeah, I still remember.
That's amazing. That's unique, man. That's pretty cool.
I still remember where I was and like what I said and all that stuff. But I would be sitting in I was terrible high school student. When I say terrible, I mean I had a semester where I got straight Fs.
Yep.
Like really all-time bad. I went to 3 different high schools. I've never even shared this stuff on LinkedIn, but I went to 3 different high schools, bounced in and out, graduated late. I was a terrible student. I'd sit in class. I was so bored with the material that they were covering. It was just like math, or like history was kind of cool, but math and like all these equations that I knew I was never going to use. And so I would sit there and I'd write raps, man. I would write raps. And I always thought when I was a kid, I was like, man, I'm going to be this big star and like people are going to know who I am and I'm going to make a difference while I'm here. And I always thought rapping or something like that was going to be what it was. And then I would watch movies, and I still do this. I'll watch a movie and I'll see an actor act something out or an actress act something out, and I'll replay that same scene and I'll act it out and I'll see how I did. And I always thought like, man, I'm actually decent at this, And then last year I got on LinkedIn and I started creating video content, and right away I started showing my personality more than I ever had before. I hadn't really done a ton of videos before that, some YouTube stuff 5 years ago, but it was just very basic for work. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here and a jump and a leap of faith. And I'm going to use some of the creative things that I think that I have inside. And I'm going to put those in my videos, and I'm going to teach people. I'm going to educate. I'm going to add value, but I'm going to do it in a creative way. Or maybe I do show some of the music stuff and some of the acting stuff. And that's going to be part of who I am and the brand, Unleash the Creative. But it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like I'm doing the stuff I'm doing now. Like that wasn't when I was doing my first few videos. You can see, it's funny if you actually go back and watch my video.
I actually did go back. I mean, I was scrolling back, man. It was wild. I went back on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's glimpses of it where you're like at the beginning, you're like, oh, I see he's like starting to kind of come out. And then it just goes full on. And I'm like, F it, I'm unleashing the creative. I don't care anymore. And so it worked out. But I realized that there were 680 million people on LinkedIn, and there wasn't really anybody that was doing what I was doing or using a green screen now there's more and more people doing it. But back then when I first started, like I didn't know anybody that was using the green screen.
Yeah.
And I got it because I didn't have a fancy office or some kind of cool environment that I thought I needed to have. So I got it out of default. And then I started realizing like, wait a second, I can actually create some cool environments and skits, and I can really make like these videos pop more when I have it. And so that's where it came from.
What was the inspiration? Like what had you get like, this is a possibility, right? So you're on LinkedIn. You had been doing some stuff you said years before on YouTube, but you first went on LinkedIn and you saw it was really nothing of it, right? I mean, people were maybe doing like the little cam videos, maybe kind of doing a little shot or two. Like that's where I got started earlier, just a few months ago. I'm trying to step up more and more. But what had you see a possibility of, wait a second, there could be more. I could actually put something together, bring this creative. What had you even think about doing a green screen? Was it literally just as simple as I need a better backdrop or what?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of the stuff that I came up with was out of like what I thought I needed to do out of necessity, out of like,
Right.
I was, living in a place with my ex at the time where we shared in the same place, but we were kind of separated, and I didn't have a good place to go and film. And then when I moved out, I didn't have like a fancy office with a bookshelf.
Sure.
I kind of made fun of that at some point, but like all entrepreneurs have a bookshelf behind them because they do, right? Every time you see an entrepreneur, it's like they got that damn bookshelf behind them, which I'm not hating. Bookshelves are cool, but I was just like, I don't have any of that, so I need to be able to present myself into what I thought I needed to at the time, which I really didn't need to. It was kind of in my head anyways. So I got the green screen, and of course, I tried to figure it all out myself and failed miserably for a long time. And that's why you see some of my early videos are just me behind an actual green screen with not the background, because I didn't know how to do it yet, Yeah. And so I figured it out. But the inspiration came, I just tried different things. I just slowly kind of showed my personality a little bit more. And then I remember the one video I think was probably the breakthrough was I did a video on like when I was observing somebody doing a cold call, and they just like were butchering it so bad. And I like reenacted that. I did a story where it was like me watching this cold caller, and he was just butchering it. And I kind of made fun of it and brought some light to it. But then there was some value in it too. And that really, once I saw how that did, and I saw people reacted to it, and they were like, this is so cool. I've never seen something like people are like, this is awesome. And then I was like, wait a second. And then I started getting, some people reaching out saying, hey, I want to start creating videos. I want to start doing what you're doing. And I was just like, the light bulb went off, and I was like, this needs to be the focus of my business is how to create this content and how to help other people create content.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting how things evolve, right? It's like you start getting into it, and then more is revealed and more is revealed and more is revealed. So you got started for yourself. You were just like, hey, I know there's something to showing up with video, and I just know opportunity will come from that. It sounds like you were kind of just like all in on that. You're like 670 million people on LinkedIn. I need to show up like nobody else. I'm going to do it through video. And then it sounds like as you were doing it more and more, and you started to, really hone that skill set, there then started to be this whole nother thing is, wait a second, I could actually create a whole platform around this and show other people to do what I just went through. It sounds like that kind of emerged after.
Yeah. And that's definitely how it happened. Because in the beginning, it was just like, I think a lot of people get on LinkedIn and we start creating content, but there's not really a plan to turn that into revenue. And I didn't have a plan in the beginning either. I was just putting out content. It was getting some reactions. It was occasionally getting some love. And then I thought, how do I take this and turn it into a business though? Like, how can I take what I'm doing and win clients from it? And then what am I going to do with those clients? And as you know, it's been a process for me to learn how to teach other people how to do it, because for me, some certain things I struggle with that other people don't, certain things that came natural to me that don't come natural to other people. And so for me, it was also an art and a skill. And I had to look and incorporate some science to it too, to teach this 5-week the video boot camp and build this community. Because it's one thing when you do it, it's a different thing when you're trying to teach other people how to unleash their own creative and how to create their own videos with, a certain blueprint that works, but also put their own kind of personal touch on it too.
Yeah, I envision, I think we talked about this. I almost picture it like a personal trainer that you really want to get in good shape with. And there's a certain blueprint, but then there's a lot of creativity in how each person does it. But there's a framework, which I think you have a really great framework, and there's certain qualities that you bring out of it. But I'll share my experience. I saw the same thing as you did, like 670 plus million people on LinkedIn, and so much of your target audience is there. It's like, how are you reaching them and how are you standing out? So I had been following guys like Gary Vee and all these guys for years, and you're hearing it hammered over and over. You got to put out content. You got to put out content. And it's like, okay, how do you put out content that you actually feel is okay, right? Because it's like we get in our head about like, it's not good enough and I don't know what to do. So there's a lot of this sitting on the sidelines, I feel like, that I went through, and I would start to dabble and start to step back. And then I felt like it was probably during COVID. I think my wife was probably so sick of hearing me complaining about not putting out any content, but I was like, I'm done with this. I got to just do something. And so I started to look at people that I really liked what they were doing. And you were one of them. I had, sought out some people that really had some great success on LinkedIn. And I think that's important. I think there's a combination of no one's going to do it for you. You obviously got to take the steps, but having the right coaching matters. Yeah. You could either go through 10,000 attempts through trial and error, or you might be able to go through 100 with the
Yeah.
right coaching, right? You could short circuit a lot. Obviously, again, you still do have to do the work, and it's not just a guarantee. But I do think there's incredible value, as we've seen through so many things in life, when you do have the proper coaching to be able to really build skills that matter to you in a quicker time frame. So I got into it more like, I guess it was April, and I was trying. I mean, it's like everything; it's so overwhelming. But I think it'd be interesting to kind of unpack that beginner mind, because now you're a little bit more outside of it, right? I feel like, when I see what you put out in video, I'm just like, wow. And you probably also have to go back to what was it like when I was just putting out my first few, even though you see it with all your students. I'm sure you're seeing over and over the same beginner moves. So let's talk a little bit about what you see stops people. I mean, I think there's probably some of that just fear of looking bad, not wanting to look bad in front of a boss or clients, everybody that's on LinkedIn, family, you name it. But now that you've been seeing like a lot of different people go through this process, what are some of the trends you're seeing in some of the students that have gone through it that you kind of notice over and over again? I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, and most of it goes back, like I'll take you back 5 years ago, roughly. I was when I really started creating videos for the very first time. And this wasn't on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn back then wasn't even it was like a resume database, and it was nowhere near the content platform it is today. Even if a year or two ago it wasn't. But 5 years ago, I started creating videos on YouTube. And it was for the company that I was working with at the time, right? Now I've left, obviously I'm doing my own thing, but I was working at the company, and I said, I love the idea of creating valuable content for people. It's just funny thinking about it now that 5 years ago, I was thinking about this. I didn't know anything about it, but I just knew there was something about this that was going to be big. And I started creating content for YouTube. I think I created maybe 10, 15, maybe 20 videos at the max. I put them on YouTube. And what I would do is I would talk about, I was in staffing and recruiting. So I would talk about, hey, here's 3 tips on how to hire better people. Or here's what you do during an interview to find out if somebody's the right fit or not. Or, here's how you identify a toxic culture and what do you do about it. I was giving leadership type advice, sales, that kind of stuff. And I would send a link to my clients or my potential, future clients. And some of them were like, cool, yeah, awesome video, liked it. Others just, ignored it and stuff. And obviously I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I didn't like blow up on YouTube after 10 videos, like who would, right? And so what happened was I just sort of, it fizzled out. And in my mind, the reason I bring this up is because going back to the beginner's mindset and what people think, I worried about, it's funny, I got embarrassed when I remember one of my coworkers brought it up at a meeting that he was going through YouTube and he saw one of my videos and he's like, oh, Alex is creating videos. And they're like, oh, that's funny. That's funny. No one understood it. And I'd go to the office on a Saturday because I was making the video in the office, and they would be like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm making these videos. They're like, what? Like no one understood it. And even back then it wasn't obviously as big as it is now, but I always had this insecurity about like, oh God, I don't want people to like, they're going to think I'm this or that, or they think I know it all, or I had all this imposter syndrome type things that people go through where it's like, who am I to share? When in reality, it's like, if you have something to give, which we all do, if you know something that someone else doesn't know, which we all know, then you kind of owe it to yourself and to the community to share that, even if it's just your own story. It could be you documenting your own journey. I mean, sure. We all have something to share, but yeah, that's the very real thing in the beginning is how do you get out of that imposter mindset? How do you get out of the mindset of like, hey, I'm worried that my coworkers or my family, if they see it, they may think it's goofy or weird, or what if it's not perfect? I mean, the reality is like nobody else is in charge or in control of your destiny, but you are. So why would you let some random person or some colleague or some family member determine where you go in your life? It's really silly when you think about it, but it's a very real thing that I think we all.
Oh, it's universal. I mean, we all have it, and you have to have something bigger that becomes what's your why. Yeah. If it's not there, then you're just going to be a victim of, I don't want to look bad. Let's just play it cool. Let's play by the rules. I think it's universal. I think we all have just this general sense of let's stay out of trouble. Let's not look bad. Let's avoid, any of that. And I think in your case, you had a much bigger game you were playing that allowed you to say, hey, got a bigger why going on. I'm just going to kind of be able to not have this be something that stops me, which is very cool.
And exactly. It is universal because it's a very human type feeling that we have programmed in our brain. It goes back to our survival brain. Our brain isn't made to be happy. It's not designed to live out our passion. It's not designed for go for risk. Our brain was built, thousands and thousands of years ago, and it was built to keep us alive and to stay, in our communities, which kept us alive. It wanted us to hunt, stay away from fear, anything that could bring us danger.
Oh, dude, we were banished from the tribe. If you look bad, like freaking 10,000 years ago, you're out. So it's totally survival based. It's there. Great.
Those primitive things are still there, but now we don't need them as much. And we have to get people out of that. Like, hey, what if I look bad in front of people? Who gives a shit? You're going to look bad. Like, you're new at this. What do you think you're going to master after 3 videos? No way.
Sure. So yeah, so you really you moved through it. You went through it over these years. You had to go through what we all go through being employed. And then it seems like your breakout really happened in the last year. And it seems like that's where you really just unleashed the creative, which little plug to the boot camp. But I love, it's so great when you could have such languaging that sums up what your brand is so beautifully. But I love that so much, unleash the creative, because I think that really is it's such a possibility that I think speaks to a lot of people. Is how great would it be if we could really unleash that creative and be that fully self-expressed person that we want to be and not feel so restricted and constrained. So I really think there's something that happens when you go through this process too. In addition to creating business, I think you get to actualize a lot of your potential just by putting yourself into this kind of a skill building. It's very interesting what happens.
That's exactly. I love how you said that perfectly, man. That's the real mission, is like beyond, obviously, it's to teach you how to generate revenue for your business, to grow your brand, all that stuff. But really where I feel it the most and what's cool for me is I feel like, yes, unleashing people's creative, unleashing their potential, giving them I talk about this in my boot camp, but giving you a voice that you didn't think you necessarily had before. Yep. I mean, giving you a platform to speak on so you can do good things in the community or for whatever you want to do. Like, to me, that is what's most cool, is to actually transform somebody, transform their life in a way, right? Or help be a part of that journey. I think is really cool, because we all have awesome things and creative things. And I think about myself, I'm like, it took me till I'm in my 30s to figure out to use what I had inside me the whole time. Like, that's crazy. Why was school not talking about identifying, your strengths and using them, and teaching you how to express yourself, and teaching you not to be afraid of other people's judgments, and how to love yourself? All these different things like that we just nobody ever taught us. And so I'm just trying to bring that shit out. I just want to show people, man, you can create whatever kind of life you want to create if you're willing to put in the work and willing to do it and learn.
Yeah, I think it's so big. I feel like I've had experiences like that through a lot of personal growth and development classes. And a lot of people hear, like you say, take an improv class, go to Rotary, do something. I think the new thing is put a video out and get good at putting videos out on LinkedIn, or in any social media platform. It's that same feeling. It really helps to bring out the expression. So it's awesome. So let's kind of fast forward to a couple months ago. So we get connected. I'm starting to get more out there on LinkedIn. I'm putting out videos. I'm saying, whatever, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to talk about what I care about, mindset, you name it. And I saw what you were doing, and I was like, wow, this is like a whole nother level what this guy's doing. It's so creative. I think your rap battle, I think it was the entrepreneur versus employee, or maybe it was like the sales versus marketing. It was a couple of them. And I was like, man, this guy's just doing something so different, just so cool, so creative, how you came up with that. And I said, let's connect. I mean, let's see what he has to say. And I started to hear a little bit more about what some of the guys that were in the camp were actually saying, because it really is people from like all sorts of backgrounds. They're in, like, in my case, I'm doing commercial real estate financing. And the first thing somebody might say is like, what are you going to do with a video? But you can do so many cool things with it. And you can do that. And I'm going to actually pop one up that you helped me out with recently. And I think it's really cool just to see the results so quickly. I think that was like my second video that I actually did. And it's already wild to see results, being able to connect with people that just now have some kind of affinity, have a base. But I thought it was really interesting that you kind of launched this boot camp and you started to be able to bring that same skill that you went through to other people, which, I'm really seeing some incredible guys going through these boot camps that are just doing wild stuff. I mean, I'm just thinking of a few, like Matt. And I mean, some of these videos are just like, oh my God, it's mind blowing, and you must see it and you must be like,
I'm so God, so I literally get emotional when I see some of these videos. And
I think you must, right? I mean, it's like
really, really cool for me. Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's just an awesome experience to see other people go through the transformation and stuff, and to say that you were a part of it is really awesome. It's so cool.
So I'll show this one, but I'll set the backstage. So I maybe was putting out videos, and there's things you could do, whether it be pods or whatever. You're talking to people, be like, hey, I'm going to be posting some videos. Could you like it? Whatever. You can get a little bit more traction, but you kind of want to do it more organically. At the end of the day, I mean, everybody is okay to an extent. You get some training wheels, but you want to really feel like people are engaging with you because they really like what you're putting out there. And so I wanted that. And I really saw that what you were putting out was just so cool. And so I think it's been about a month, maybe like 5 weeks or so. I got all the stuff, got my green screen. I got my, the ring light that I got on right now, all this stuff. And then it was like, how do you go through the format? And I think you do a really good job of it in the boot camp. But I'll share just this one, and it really blew away, any stats. And stats I think are interesting because, yeah, it's nice to have the likes, the comments, and the views. That does matter. But ultimately, I think what you also teach, which is you got to really do something with that and the follow-up, being able to connect with people. But now there's at least a background of relatedness. Once somebody's liked and commented on your video, how much more fun is it to reach out with them in a creative way that you share about, through video or something that you just really is also unique. And now you're talking to them rather than, who knows what, sending some kind of template message or whatever else people do these days that just doesn't get any results. So I'll share this one. This was by far and away the best results. I think right now, I put this out a week and a half ago. I have almost 6,100 views. So just for me, just to compare that, typical video, I mean, sometimes I have videos that get like, I don't know, 100, 100, 200 if I'm lucky. If I'm really doing well with it, maybe I'm getting 1,000. I don't know. I can maybe hit 1,000. That's a real goal. But a lot of times it's like 500 to 700. That's kind of where I'm at. This got over 6,100 views, and from a lot of people that had never liked or commented on any video. These are people that are just sitting back and they saw this video and something about it had them literally take a moment or send me a message or text me or call me. 145 likes, 115 comments, a lot of engagement. I'm going to pop it up real fast, and then we could talk about just a couple things that you do with it. But 1 second. So this is the video, and you're able to see. Okay. So I did this whole theme, and it's kind of,
they're everywhere.
I feel like everywhere I look these days, there's a fake lender that's pretending to do something they can't. It's even worse during COVID. It's just crazy the amount of over-promising, under-delivering that I'm seeing. Don't get had by somebody pretending that they could do some high-leverage, low-cost program, non-recourse with all the bells and whistles. You got to see a track record. Let's pause that for a second. But, just so many little things that you really showed me about that were really helpful.
But he needs to show you at least one deal.
Even just as simple as getting the background, really simple as getting like the right header, the font. There's so many subtle things that I think you just you do a great job coaching and training. I mean, ultimately, I put this together, which is great, and I think it's so distinct from what I think is out there right now. And look, this works too. Like, you could hire somebody to just do videos for you. And I think that has a place too. And I think that might work for a lot of people. And then I also think there's a hybrid where it's nice if you learn to do it. And then when you do work with somebody, you could be able to give better feedback on, hey, I'd like this, I'd like that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do a video, you kind of need to be in front of the camera, right? I mean, there's kind of a certain amount that you have to do. And so what I really like about your program is the style in which you could help somebody build that skill set to fish for themselves and not have to always have it be provided. It was a real nice distinction that I like, and I'm still in it. I mean, obviously I want to be able to get 5 more videos at least under my belt. I'm trying to do 1 a week, but I think it's really one of those things where you really do a good job of helping to translate that skill set to the students that participate. So that was a really cool recent success that I thought was pretty cool that I wanted to share with you. So.
That's so cool, man. It's so cool. I knew that was a good performing video, but for you, but I didn't know to the extent even till today. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah, and when I think about it, like that's the second one. I mean, it's like when I think about like, what about 10? Like, what does that look like? Or 20? And so my biggest takeaway is you got to get on the court. You got to create some kind of goal for yourself, whether it be once a week or something. But I think it's really great stuff, man. I really just wanted to bring you on and share a little bit about it. And then, kind of where do you see things now? Like now that you're kind of getting a much better perspective of what's working and what's not, where do you see taking this? Where do you see students really being able to take this into their lives in a much bigger level? I'd love to hear any takeaways that you really picked up on since you really just went all in, which, by the way, let me give you like a major acknowledgement. I think it's so incredible to just really go all in the way you did. You were employed comfortably, making what you were making, like things were great, no complaints. But I think you had such a passion for doing this that you really just said, I'm going all in. I'm at a point right now where I got the base going on. I got enough of a enough of a base and interest and participation that I could run with it. Still scary as anything I can imagine because it's still early, but what's that like over the last, I guess it's been 60 days, making that transition to like going all in on this? Love to hear it.
It's been wild, man. It's been a great ride so far. We're just getting started, obviously, but
yeah,
you're always a little bit nervous when you make the change from, I was at the company for 6 years, very stable, making decent money, benefits, it's just very like, what you're going to get every day. It's consistent. And going from that to everything is on you, and you have 100% of the responsibilities, the sales, the marketing, the, everything, the taxes, the freaking legal stuff, like, everything that you got to think about when it comes to a business. There's more than people think, but, and so I'm still adjusting, right? I'm still figuring out my, some certain aspects of how I spend my time or where I spend it in the business model and what direction. You're just always it's kind of always a work in progress, but, It's been a hell of a ride, man. I'm so glad that I decided to do it. And I feel like I'm in a great place now. And I feel like we've got such amazing thing happening with the boot camp and the other clients that are companies where we're just seeing a ton of progress. And I think it just compounds. I mean, you see it with videos and stuff, like you make 1 or 2 videos, pretty soon you're at 10, then you're at 20, then you're 100. And it just, more people start to know who you are, more referrals start to come in, and more business starts just generating through just your work that you've put in the last year. So it's like, there's people I talked to 6 months ago that now opportunities are popping up, because of certain things that I'm on. And so, wild ride, man. It's a lot of work. It's a challenge for sure, but it's worth every second of it. I love it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I really wanted to bring you on. I have a lot of people asking me like, hey, how are you doing this stuff? And I said, let me just bring on Alex and share a little bit about what you're doing. And yeah, I think guys, like for anybody that's tuning in now, or when you look at this, check his profile out, look him up on LinkedIn. You'll see pretty quickly some of the videos he puts out. He does, what do you do, 3 a week, which is crazy, like a machine. Yeah. It's amazing. And even that's amazing that you have it down. It's such a machine at this level, but it shows like where you could take this over a period of time if you're just consistent. But check out some of his videos. There's a bunch of other good guys that you could see that have gone through this boot camp in the last month and a half, like myself, that are just doing some really cool things with it. So I definitely encourage everybody to check it out. Reach out to Alex and find out a little bit about how you might be able to unleash the creative with with what you're up to. So very cool, man.
Love it, man. Love it.
Good stuff. Well, I will talk to you soon. I appreciate you jumping on this, being able to wrap a little bit about the history and hear a little bit more about what's in store. So
dude, thanks for having me, man. I'll be on anytime.
Awesome. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
See ya. Okay.